Last, sorry, I missed it.
That's
Nick,
fine
you
too.
nodded first, so why don't you go then? Over to you,
Me?
Nick.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, as a reminder for people who weren't here 2 weeks ago, I'm developing computing education workshops in schools, and within those workshops there's going to be an element about teaching kids. These are kind of 10, 11, 12 and 13-year-olds. A bit of it is about teaching the use of artificial intelligence or machine learning, and the rest of the workshops will be about building a computer system from lots of miniature computers, Raspberry Pis, without doing any coding. So my MVP that I've been working on for the last few weeks is around the demo for artificial intelligence, and I've fleshed it out a little bit more, and I can't actually show my screen because I'm not an attendee, but I have now got a working minion detector. So there's a camera attached to a Raspberry Pi, and you put a minion in front of it, a minion being one of these, and it will tell you whether it's a minion or not using machine learning. But I mean, that is fairly standard stuff, and you can do all that on existing websites. But what I've got kind of as a framework for the second half of the workshops is that the Raspberry Pi is doing a lot of the image object detection, but it actually offloads the training of a machine learning model back to a laptop, or my computer in this case. So the next stage, once I've got this minion detector up and running for a single person, is to gamify it and to turn it into a kind of a competition. So the person running the workshop will organise the kids into groups, and they'll each be set a challenge of train your Raspberry Pi to recognise a minion, or train it to recognise a chair versus a table, or train it to recognise the colour red versus blue. And they'll do it all with their Raspberry Pis. They'll train their own models. We'll then test them, evaluate them, see how good their training data was, and we'll be able to score the different groups of students according to how well they trained their model. So it's kind of bringing together AI with the very popular web-based quiz platforms that they use in primary and secondary schools. Yeah, once I get all that up and running, well, I'm already getting to know the Raspberry Pi quite well. If you haven't seen one, the Raspberry Pi is something like that, tiny computer. But yeah, I now know the Raspberry Pi's capabilities, and I'm kind of building the software framework to allow a class full of Raspberry Pis to all talk to one another and receive instructions from a central computer and upload their results to a central computer. So yeah, I've had a productive couple of weeks. In terms of help, the main thing I need actually at the moment is Raspberry Pis, because there's a worldwide shortage of them. You can't buy them for love or money at the moment. Apparently it's going to take 2, 3 or 4 months before they start reappearing again in the stockists. So if anyone has a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4 sitting around in a cupboard that they're not using, do get in touch, because I need about 10 of them in order to be able to trial the classroom content. Yeah, that's probably the most immediate thing I need right now. It sounds very trivial, but there is a limit to how I can kind of test the product for scale at the moment. And beyond that, I will be looking for people to test and provide feedback on the websites that the students and the facilitator will be using. Web styling isn't my strong point, but so yeah, I will be looking for help on that. And that is all from me.
Thanks, Nick. Dinesh, you raised your hand. Do you want to quickly? I think you're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
I was just wanting to suggest to Nick is why not make all of us make a shout out in the world and see if there are enough Raspberry Pis in UK itself. There are a lot of enthusiasts who haven't used them for donkey's years, and they're sitting in the cupboards actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. It does need to be the recent ones, ideally a 4 or at least a 3. So I mean, the 4 has been around for a couple of years. But yeah, do spread the word on your networks, because that's
Nick, do you want to send a short paragraph of what you're looking for, and what I'll do is distribute it to everyone, and they can then email or use social media, whatever.
Yeah.
With their friends. But that's a great idea. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. So yeah, on to it.
And
Sorry, I just got to go and get that.
That's all right, Nick. Okay, let's transfer to Dinesh then to give his updates.
Link has his hand up. Is there something, Link, before I start?
Just a simple question on it. He's talking about a 3D printer is what he needs, right? For that box.
No, at the moment, Raspberry Pis. So
Raspberry Pis?
Yeah. So he needs 3D printers as well.
Mini computer. Not the edible thing, like not
right. I'm like, send me a picture with a description, because I have a bunch of friends that do all that kind of stuff. And maybe Abe would like to make a little bit of extra cash too, and you guys could help each other out. But I need to know exactly what I'm asking, because I don't speak the language.
No worries.
So,
what I'll do is I'll get Nick's a debrief from Nick and share it with everyone. Let's see where that goes. This is social media being put to test, isn't it? So brilliant, Nick. I was just adding to that, Nick, when you mentioned about the websites. Let's catch up because I'm doing something. I'm building a platform to enable all startup entrepreneurs to host their own websites and things like that. So let's catch up on that. I can help you with that.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a publicly accessible website. It's all on a local network in a classroom. But yeah, I'll speak to you anyway.
Let's have a catch up. Yeah.
Okay, I will take over the share now.
Yeah, you can take over.
There we go. Okay, so last time I presented my website, but that website was more about my thoughts. This time I have removed every other noise. So this is one improvement that has been made. So it's whereapp.org still. We simplify sustainability, and essentially our commitment is what is coming clearer to my mind. There could be possibly some more clarity that I need in what is it that we are going to do under whereapp. So innovate location services to create compelling reasons for everyone to embrace sustainability for everything. So I still keep the where app part of it and sustainability, and the two are sticking well together for me. So this is one thing that is clear to me. The second is I had updated about having hired a developer who has started developing, and this is what we are doing. It's a Figma Jam sort of a thing. So we are likely to have our first what we call as the APK file, which is before we put the app to the Play Store. So we have identified what are the basic features that we need, and the developer is doing a decent job. I could expect more, but he has started off with the key modules already. So that's one area, and this FigJam is a link which I could share to all of you. There is no IPR per se, and if you could review as Circle One members and throw some more inputs, leave some comments, or add a few boxes and arrows around, I would be quite grateful because a lot of you have project management experience, and that would be quite handy. The next thing that is here is a list that I have of what is it that I could expect because Dash said why not shout out for some help, and one is the FigJam that I mentioned. I would be happy to receive some assistance for setting up whereapp as an open source. Now, I only know the word open source, but I do not know how to actually make it an open source. So any experience and expertise sharing there would be of great use as well. For the year 2022, the focus of whereapp is going to be on responsible consumption and production. And in this regard, I am looking for ready access to product catalogs from leading producers to get that initial seed of product information so that I could then marry up the producers and the consumers quite easily. So if anyone in their network has someone who I can connect to for such ready to integrate catalog, that would be quite helpful. And lastly, if there is any project management efficiency that can be offered, say remotely by being in touch with the current developer, and that should we take the open source model, then in communicating with the community that contributes, that is also another ask from the Circle One members. By 3rd March, which is the week called the Consumers Week, I would like to roll out the first version on the Play Store and the iOS. So that's the stiff target that we have taken up. And this version of the app would essentially allow adding anything, make it search, and be able to write all kinds of unlimited attributes to this thing that has been added, and make it visible either as private, public, or restricted within the organization. So that's the little sketchy app that we want to do before the 3rd of March. So that's the update from my side. Any questions, I'm happy to take.
The one question I have is when you say project management, as in the open source part, I can certainly help with, at least
That would be great.
tools and all. The project management, what is, because we've got lots of project managers on this forum, but what is it that you're really expecting? Because what you may be meaning by project management is not probably what we understand as project management.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can only have a little simple understanding of how information would move and things like that, or what are the different screens that need to come up, but that's very basic. If you are looking at, I mean, you're talking about project management where there are large teams and large objectives. Well, that's not where we are right now, but something that takes it in a systematic manner, makes everyone accountable. Not, there are not too many people here, but some bit of accountability, some usual what we call as agile and scrums and things like that, so that we have a control on where we are going.
Okay, maybe more product management probably is more relevant, but that's fine. It may be just understanding exactly what you're after. So let me understand in more specific terms, and then what I'll do is again broadcast back to this group as to what that is.
I need some debriefing.
Yeah. Okay. No, awesome. Anything, Chris? Sorry, Link, you got your hand up. Is this from before?
Nope. I just wanted to say that I heard in there, like basically needing the resources and the team members that would kind of deploy this project as well. And I found that in kind of the technical stuff, there's like team, kind of like the Circles group, but other communication tools. Like I'm sure you're familiar with Discord. And then there's one that's newer that's called Codex, and it's basically that kind of tech community to look at building projects and, you know, and have resources and stuff like that. So you might tap some of those resources as well as those other communities. And if you need a list, I can get a list over to you of just different ones that are available out there that I've come across. I keep them all in a spreadsheet. So just in case I need them one day.
Okay. Any more for Dinesh? And Dinesh, there's one other thing you mentioned, 3rd of March. If you're launching that, what, again, depends who wants to help out, but what we could do is run your app on our devices and give you feedback. That could be something.
Oh yeah.
A low-hanging fruit.
That would be wonderful. If it's on Play Store, because APKs, not everybody would be comfortable running APKs on their phones should I manage to crash their phones. But if it is on Play Store, I will share the link to the Play Store, and you guys could run it.
You should be able to do a limited pilot.
A limited pilot.
Dinesh, and basically not have it published, but have it available on Play Store. And if someone has the link, you can go through just an alpha phase where you can get some friendly users to install. Sure.
I will share those links once it's up.
And don't break our phones.
Oh, of course. That would be first attempt.
The bills could wipe out your startup.
Thank you,
Right,
gentlemen, and Sherry and Meena.
sorry, did we have more hands? I'm just trying to. Sorry, I may have raised my hand in error. If there isn't any more for Dinesh, just in interest of keeping time, Link, do you want to go in now? If you don't feel pressured, if you're
No,
not
I'm
prepared for
fine
it,
now.
yeah. Okay, go on.
Now I
Link.
have my mind around the topic.
Go on.
So as I kind of presented before, I'm a consultant, human capital and cultural competency type consultant. So from local to global, my company and I inspire the world to be more inclusive of everyone. So at this current stage, people are being harmed by the one size fits all diversity, equity, inclusion, like the DEI training and philosophies. So to encourage a culture of belonging for everyone, I provide training and consulting that promotes inclusion at all levels within communities and organizations. So, unlike other alternatives that have rigid practices and damaging rhetoric, our product emphasizes the value of mutual respect and human kindness. And so, where I'm at now is part of it basically starting up a new product line within my company that is an open talent platform to source the best in human capital consulting with the piece of tech and engineering, because in most recently, since the political craziness in the United States and a couple of years ago, and then Black Lives Matters and all of that kind of political push, there's a lot of inconsistency within companies that are trying to improve and enhance culture within their companies. And the problem is that they're not retaining staff. They're lawsuits related to discrimination and things like that, and it's not consistent across all countries. So what I've been doing for the last year and a half is chairing a global advocacy council in the future of workspace to learn how open talent models work, but also as workforce development is new ways of working are being implemented. How can we then make sure that the practices of hiring and the practices of team building are actually inclusive and are having an impact? So to give you an idea, the average company with 1,000 employees spends between 50,000 and 300,000 in US dollars per year to just address DEI in their organizations. But then they're doing things like hiring a speaker at $25,000 that's having no return on it, can't actually measure whether or not they're having impact. And so it's estimated that last year alone, $17 trillion went into this industry with no measurable results. And so what I want to do as a consultant and what I'm doing now is basically building the seed money to put back into the business to build the open talent platform. So I'm working on building a team of consultants that already do this work. I'm speaking with one today that her whole main bag is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and engineering to promote inclusion and fairness in work. And so we're looking at ways to basically do joint ventures, me and other consultants. They're spotlighting me on their page. I want to do the same on mine. I'm building my page for the company. And so then we build a team and get contracts. So I'm working on contracts that relate to assessing DEI programs and EIG networks, looking at their policies and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they want to be doing, and then looking at their data to make sure that they're getting that impact. Short-term consulting projects, so that way I can bring in seed money. And I've made the decision in the last few days that trying to get a few big contracts is not necessarily where I'm at, because I don't have the team yet to fulfill some of those contracts. So even though I've had multi-million-dollar offers, I can't take them on. So building the seed money first while also building the team. So what I could use help with is that I'm fine tuning my resume again. And I'm looking now, these projects were never there on the internet. Now I'm seeing we're looking for a gender expert, a subject matter expert. Well, that's me. I could do that too. And so connecting me with the companies that you work with or with connections that you have that will want to bring me in for maybe a couple hours of consulting, or I deliver some of the most powerful training and inspiring storytelling you've ever heard. So I've done more than, from audiences from 6 to 25,000 people, where I've done inspirational, motivational speaking at graduations to talking to a conference full of doctors about how to treat transgender people in healthcare. And so I have this niche where if somebody's looking to empower or inspire their audience or staff to be more inclusive, I do that as well as training, and then as well as the consulting. So that's what I'm looking to plug, those networks. And if you have connections or other consultants that are doing this work too that you can connect me with, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Would you mind giving maybe offline again, quite like everyone else is doing, if you share your deliverables or a resume or something, then I can broadcast it for people to see what kind of networking they can do and connect you with, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Sherry, you have got your hand up. Do you want to come in? You are on mute if you're trying to speak, Sherry.
Yes, indeed, I was on mute. That's my first mute for the day, by the way. Just have to mention that. Link, a question for you. Just wondering whether this, what you're doing, the inclusivity, does it expand to include disability too?
Yes.
Or have you thought about that? Or is it included? You didn't mention it, so I just thought I'd ask.
So I have my specialization and my expertise is LGBT populations, and then overall building allyship within organizations. And then I have other consultants I work with on my team that do disability, neurodiversity, race, age, the legal aspects of all of this stuff. So legal and policy. So yes, a little bit of everything. I don't do everything, but my team that I'm building can do kind of every area under the DEI or underserved population arena.
Thank you, Link. That's wonderful. I'm passionate about disability. Worked in 3 countries, and I don't think people do enough in the UK. Although we've got nearly 45% of our people have some form of disability, not visible probably, but it's close to that. Australia is 1 in 5 are living with a disability, so it's really, really very high. And like I said, it's possibly not visible. So I feel in the UK, and this is anecdotal really, but I think we're not doing enough in the UK. I know Australia is really high on inclusivity and including people with disability. So great to hear that you have thought about disability and you have people on your team making sure that's covered off and they're being included too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
Awesome. Right. So I've got 20 minutes left, and there is a lot that I want to cover as well. So if there are questions for Link, if you are on Slack or if you can be on Slack, that'll be great. Or even for that matter for Chris, for Nick or Dinesh. What I've done is just shared a link on the chat. If you click through, if you can't get through, then copy it and paste it into the browser. Teams does have some security things. I will be sharing my screen anyways, so when I talk, you can have a look at it. So, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So
very tiny, but yes.
Yeah. So I'll start zooming.
Oh, there we
in.
go.
So what I've done is for a while I've been trying to understand how do we actually make this work. It's great to have an idea. It's great to meet every 2 weeks, but how do we actually put some energy into the system? How do we start recognizing different contributions, and how do we make this work as a sustaining model? And if you think of this as an analogy of and I thought I was talking to Baz, who's kindly offered 2 days a week of his time, which is fantastic. And that's a shout out for you, Baz. Thank you so much for that gesture. It really, really means a lot. But when I was talking to Baz on Monday, I was explaining how the SOS tokens, I see them as being used for exchanging value between us. As in, if you look at in the real world, people exchange value by using currency. That's a mechanism to exchange value. And to me, the SOS tokens can do very much the same thing. So I was equating it to a scenario where if you were to land on a new island, which was beautiful and was everything that you ever imagined it to be, but you wanted to kickstart a bit of an ecosystem out there, how would you go about it? What would it look like? Because on that island, you probably will be the only person initially. A few people will come through. There wouldn't be any currency. So how do you actually work your way through on that exchange of values concept? So in trying to model it, I thought, let me go back a bit into where I started SmallOutside, and there's a bit of storytelling here because it leads to the final picture that I'm about to share. So back in 2010, when I started, I was dreaming of this island, something where we could all collaborate, have meaningful, as in today's conversations were brilliant. This is what I was hoping and wanting to do. 2011, I thought I saw the idea there. The island was discovered, but it was still in my head. It was all about bringing crowds together, bringing quality professionals together, and doing something great. Frankly, that's what the idea was, and then things went quiet. So I did take the plunge. I started my own business, but after that, things went quiet. But in 2017, I started checking the beaches over there of the island that I was discovering. Was still evolving, as in some of you have been with me since 2017, and you will recall the first slide deck. It was a blue with a very corporate looking pie chart of how a percentage of our revenue or our income could go towards impact and things like that. So I was really starting to check the beaches of this island. And I started sharing that vision, that the view that I had seen, the discovery that I had made with individuals. Some of you will remember coming on to those meals and parties wherever in London we used to meet up. So that was all good and still very informal. Throughout 2018, the concepts evolved further. I was exchanging ideas with people. And again, thanks to everyone who's contributed it. And of course, in 2019, it seemed serious enough to register it as a proper business and look at it as a true entity that could actually, instead of having this informal meetup, let's put something. So I started investing into it and all that, which is great, but it doesn't really, as in I don't have that kind of money to really pump this and to help it achieve the vision that we've started with. But in any case, there had to be a model to underpin the idea. So in 2020, to be honest, that's when work really began in earnest. We started modeling the business idea behind it, how that would shape up. If you're wondering who the other person is, that's Manan behind the scenes. In 2020, I'm glad he migrated to UK for his studies, and the two of us just laid our hands on whatever we could build, and we built version 6 of the platform, which is still there, but we're going to decommission it. But we put something there just to test the market, and it all made sense. But we were finding that money was going to be important in order to even get this to the heights that we needed to go get to. And that's when we sent out our SOS signals. And this is when the SOS tokens were launched. So if anyone's not aware of the SOS token, some of you already have it through just being part of Circle One. But if you're not caught up on that, these are tokens that were built on the Stellar network as a mechanism to exchange value, as a mechanism to generate funds so that activities can be funded. Some of the ideas we've heard today and the future ideas, they will all need money. So this was a mechanism to start building that pot of money, which can then be used for building achieving this vision. In 2021, although we launched SOS, I think it was December of 2020, we created the tokens. Things went quiet because I chose collaborations with others in favor of trying to raise money, building enough momentum before people can trust us for what we are trying to do. So that's where the collaborations to build that island and build those connections across that island were starting to happen. This is where I came across some lovely people like Link, Agnes, Chuck, as part of the Open Assembly, as I'm thoroughly indebted to Andy to even connect me to Open Assembly. So some great conversations started over there, and that then led to Circle One. So this is when you guys came in. Slowly but steadily we formed Circle One, and that's what we did last year. We exchanged ideas. If some of you may not be aware, but Nick, Link, and myself, we meet up in the masterminds as well every alternate weeks to these ones. Anyone who is a startup entrepreneur is welcome to join in. As long as you are an impact entrepreneur, then you're welcome to that forum. But we've exchanged a lot of ideas, and to be honest, my greatest achievement last year, if anything, was having a clear vision of what we set out to do. As in, it seemed like I was clear, but for a long time, I think I confused you all, and thank you for staying on. But clearly, the vision became clear, and we relaunched the platforms. That was the end of last year. A very exhausting last year, but 2022 has begun with a nice bang. We've started some structured work. One of them is Link, one of them is Nick, one of them, and those two people pictures, Dinesh and Nick. As in, we've started all these ideas. We've started Dragon Circle. That kickoff was great, and thanks to Mark for suggesting it. And while this has given some momentum to this whole idea, there is still more to be done before we can make this work in its entirety. So that's where we are now, and I'm starting to think, what does that island ecosystem need to look like? So we've designed we had a vision of a dream or island. We kind of gave it a bit of a shape last year. We've defined what it could look like, but by itself, meeting twice a week, maybe exchanging a few messages on Slack, will it get us where we need to? Probably not. And that's where I've started. I've been for the last few weeks actively working on the ecosystem, and that's what I want to share today. So that's what the roadmap looks like. The key problems that we are trying to solve here is, and why SOS is almost what are the questions that SOS is trying to answer. So the first one is promoting collaboration. We need a mechanism to actively promote collaboration between members. And I'm not saying just Circle One members. At the moment, we are very consciously restricting, not restricting, but limiting our exposure. We're not going out and telling the world that we exist. But as more people come in, we'll need a mechanism to promote strong collaboration between individuals, whether it is individuals, the entrepreneurs who are seeking support, or the impact network wanting to support them. We need a mechanism for that. We need to reward the contributors. Needless to say, some of us will end up putting in a lot more work. Some of us will put less work. Some of us will lose interest over time and disappear. And that's a fact. That's how it will happen generally. That's how things happen. But people who have been there supporting this whole vision, their contributions need to be firstly recognized and also rewarded. So that's an important problem to solve. The third one is attracting like-minded people. So this was never designed to be a network which just was trying to invite everyone. There's never an intention of making a Facebook or a LinkedIn out of it. It's very much a niche network. People who share the same vision, who are like-minded, how do we attract them? That's an important aspect. And then some of us will end up in interesting collaborative relationships. So the vision is that there will be non-executive director participation. So I'm just using, I wouldn't use names at this stage, but let's say impact entrepreneur has an idea by himself or herself themselves, they'll not be able to achieve it. And therefore, they will need collaborators. But how do you actually formalize those relationships between the collaborators? Do we do legal work? Do we have another exchange, a mechanism for exchanging value? And that will become an important aspect. And likewise, building a reserve for growth. So while we are doing this the way we are doing it, it won't grow very fast, and we will need to build up our reserves. The more we think of technology, some of the words used earlier, AI is a big one, or data analytics is a big one, and all of that requires heavy investment as well. And therefore, we'll need to build up our own reserves. And the last one is some objective metrics of how we are doing as a community. Is this idea actually working? Or is it very subjective? Can we make it objective and say, actually, the community was at X number of points last week, now it is at Y number of points, and look, it's actually growing, or it's been stagnant at X for the last 6 months. And it starts giving you some objective metrics on where we are progressing as a community. And to me, the SOS tokens do provide an answer to each of those problems, and I'm more than happy to explain how. But that's probably a discussion for another session, and I'm more than happy to jump on calls or have offline conversations. But more importantly, from a roadmap perspective, the first thing we will start doing, now I've put 1 million there, it's likely to be more, it's likely to be less. I think it'll be more, not less. But we'll start with a big giveaway. And the first use of SOS will be on community building. And what do we mean by that? So at the moment, we are, I think, 33 strong. Generally, some people may have lost interest, but maybe somewhere around 30 strong. And some of us are already starting to participate. So I want to firstly make sure the giveaways actually recognize those participations. Support entrepreneurs. So this one, if I just explain what I mean by that, is we heard some requests for help earlier on this call, and we can help without expecting anything in return, and most of us will probably do it anyways. But as we start growing into a bigger number, and I'm talking about a few hundreds, you then need to start thinking of actually how do you exchange value? How do you make it objective? So one of the ideas that's in the pipeline is having a marketplace concept. So if, let's say, Nick is looking for Raspberry Pis, he will say, I'm looking for 10 Raspberry Pis and I'm willing to give 50 SOS tokens per Raspberry Pi. And I'm just using that as an example. Ideally, at a dollar value, if a Raspberry Pi is $100, then it would be 100 tokens. And that's what Nick would give. But to support Nick, we will centrally we'll give away, and we'll start Nick off with maybe 100,000 tokens, which he can use in order to gather support. It's a bit like a real world economy where you're exchanging value. Yes, that money or those tokens don't mean anything today, but wait for the next slide when we start talking about how do we link it to the wider world and create real value for people a real financial value, which eventually translates into money in the bank. But at this point, that's almost not important. What is more important is building those collaborations and recognizing them in some meaningful way, which is where those tokens will start supporting the entrepreneurs and exchanging value between members. Payments in lieu is another concept again, which is if I'm good with my graphic design and I just want to help Nick, and sorry, Nick, I keep using you as an example, but if I want to do, or I'll use Dinesh's example, keep it simple. So if Dinesh wanted a Verap logo and some artist among us says, yeah, I'll do it, but I wouldn't do it for free. I would like to be recognized for it. It doesn't have to be real money, but I will charge 500 tokens for it. So Dinesh can then give his SOS tokens in exchange, and the person doing that work is actually doing it with a view that those tokens will eventually have a value. So that's a payment in lieu kind of model. The last one is improving blockchain adoption, and that's something which is more closer to me. I genuinely think blockchain is such a promising technology. It's got amazing potential. We must ignore the current bumps and dumps which are creating it a bad name, the volatility that exists today. But the technology inherently is an answer to many problems, and it is very, very promising in addressing some of the real world problems. But it won't start without a good adoption. And to me, how do you do it? The best way to do it is to get someone to go and create a wallet, and we will put money into their wallets or tokens into their wallets simply for going through that learning curve and creating a wallet. So that would be part of the giveaway. There will be more ideas like these, but all focused on the models that we've discussed so far. Now that's how we will start. The next bit though is to actually make it work, as in it's great for me to jump on a call and share this. So the work that is currently underway, which I will share in a few days, we are working through the system that underpins, that's the payment system. And there will be rate cards, so there'll be configurable rate cards to say if you turn up for Circle One Meetup, that is worth X number of coins, whatever. And the whole idea there again, I know, by the way, and I don't mean to undermine your attendance and your presence here, but the fact that you're giving 2 hours away every month, that's got to be recognized. So there will be a rate card for that. And that's just a recognition of your support. But there will be other activities. There may be other kinds of activities that need to happen in order to, as in somebody, let's say, wants to, if I use the blockchain adoption, there may be a need to write a blog on Stellar network. And one of us will say, yeah, I'll write the blog. And therefore, there may be a rate card attached to writing a blog. So it starts becoming recognized. All those contributions start getting recognized. Marketplace is what I mentioned earlier as an example. If Nick wants to buy a few Raspberry Pis, he can buy them off, or he can buy them using SOS tokens. Automated payments is where we're looking at website actions, so things that happen on the website will automatically result in payments. As in a simple example would be a referral, for example. One member refers another member, then that referral will automatically result in a payment into the referrer's account. So we'll start using tokens as a means of, again, recognizing who's helping build this community. The last one is crowdfunding. Again, this is being exchanged in, so Circle app is one of the apps which we will have to build soon. The Circles app is not something I can do in my in the time I have or with using my skills. So there will be a need to get that funded. It will be a mobile app. There is a vision. The vision's clear. The implementation is going to be a costly one. So if we are going out into the market and saying we would like to build such an app because it helps the world doing X, Y, Z, and people fund us, we want to do it differently. We want to give something in return as a token of recognition initially, but with a view that longer term, it will fetch value back for people who supported us. So that's what we're building right now. And midterm, we need to start considering the governance and control around it. How do we, and I mean it even myself, we've created a supply of 1 billion tokens. Of course, we won't put them all out. We're going to put them in a vault, and that vault will be a bit like how money gets printed. I guess you don't go and print every coin in the that the island has the capacity for. It's done through a very controlled mechanism. So we may say this year we will probably spend maybe 20 million tokens or 1 million or 2 million, whatever. But I'm expecting to have good controls on it, where I come to Circle One and I say, look, this is the plan that could cost us so many tokens. Do you approve? And there will be probably multiple signatories who have to, as in Stellar allows for multi-signing. So we'll use that capability to actually make sure even I can't abuse this system, although we've built this system from scratch. So it's again putting those governance and controls. The next one is where the real value starts getting created, which is exchanging the SOS tokens with other tokens which are trading in the market for real money. And that's where it becomes real for people who are receiving these tokens. There are, again, lots of ideas there. We can get listed on the exchanges. People who receive those tokens can sell them off. There is nothing stopping. So if you built up a reserve of, just for argument's sake, 1,000 tokens simply by helping others, you can sell those tokens off and make money out of it. But again, so last year we had people who were buying it for $1 a token. It then went quiet. It's more recently, I think it was at 20 cents a token. But my personal goal is to bring it to a $1 per token value. And everyone who receives those tokens right now, longer term, will be able to sell those off. But we need to get listed on exchanges. So that's what we will start doing once we gather enough momentum. And then the longer term is where we need to start thinking of a distribution model as to what does that look like. As in, at the moment, it's still at a design phase. We need to think of what would the community reserves look like, because we're using 1 million tokens right now to build the community, but that will have to keep going. So how do we actually reserve a certain amount for that? The initial coin offering, if you're not familiar with crypto, this is a mechanism by which you can go into the market. So let's say we achieve a value of $1 per token, and we now need to build reserves for expansion. So things like, let's say, the SaaS serving that was a service that I was mentioning earlier to enable the startup entrepreneurs to have their own websites. That I can do right now with my time and with my limited funds, but it's not something that will scale. So we'll need infrastructure, the cost relating to that. And that can be achieved by actually offering those coins, the SOS tokens, into the open market. Of course, it needs FCA approvals and all those processes as well. But that can actually be then sold into the open market, and those reserves, the financial reserves, can be created to support all those startup ideas. Apart from that, of course, the platform development costs, the incubator funding, which is supporting all the startup entrepreneurs, and then a growth fund on how do we actually make these whole ideas, all these ideas grow. And lastly, but not the least, is how do we actually create a reward back for the founders and co-founders who are going to play a role in making this a success in the longer run. So that's something which is yet to be modeled. What does that pie look like? I have no idea. As in, I have rough idea, sorry, but I can't be sure at this stage as to what percentages look right. I am studying the existing models from other crypto tokens who've done this before. And we will arrive at models, we'll try them, test them, and adapt them. That's where the SOS tokens roadmap is going. And have I gone over time? Oops, I have. Does that give an idea? I have rattled through very quickly, but does that give an idea of what the SOS world could look like in the coming days, months, and years? I'll stop presenting and I'll come back to the screen if there are any questions. So, Sherry, you've got your hand. Is that from before?
Yes, it is a legacy hand, and I'm sorry, I should have taken it down.
That's all right. So, firstly, did that help? As in, did that bring any of those concepts to life? Are they still feeling as in a bit alien? Will this island even get formed?
That's been really helpful, Dash. It takes it towards some tangible steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And understanding how we can use the coins to encourage people to participate is great. I guess it'd be good to take another topic maybe in a few weeks' time to talk about how we can encourage some trading on the market for the coins to up their value, so people feel they're getting something tangible when they're being rewarded with coins. But we can get some of the blockchain experts to help us understand how we could make that happen.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, the more it gets traded, the more valuable it becomes, of course. And
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Baz, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say the same, but I think for this to work, and I think we've talked about this before, we just need to increase our numbers, don't we? I think that's what's going to make the difference. I think it's just too small a group for this to work well, I think, and we need a plan really, or we have some plans anyway. We need an idea of how we bring the right people into this circle and increase it.
Yeah. And are we ready there? Are we at a point where we can expand? I'm not sure. At the moment, we are still kind of shaping some of these ideas. And
yeah,
when more numbers start coming, it's very difficult to actually do the messaging or keep people aligned to the
yeah. No, I understand. No, I agree. But I think what I'm saying is, I think for the I sort of understand this, but the idea is right. But I think to progress with it well, we need to sort of do a bit more now, don't we, with the numbers?
Agreed.
Because I think we can help each other, a little bit, but we just need the quantity, don't we? As much.
Agreed. As in, without the network, it's a network idea. Yeah. Without the network, it's not going to work, is it?
Yeah.
Dinesh, you got your hand up.
Yes, I was just wanting to understand. I mean, now this is just currencies in general. So if you trade gold with me trading shells with you, I have to give you more shells in order to get your gold.
Yeah.
So is it something that the 30 odd of us can offer to the world, that they give us some real cryptocurrency and we exchange our currency? That's how it gets into traction, because if it does get traded, as Mark brought out, then people will start believing in it. In that case, if you ask me to prepare a document that I am capable of, I will prepare and I will give it as a service just for these coins, knowing that this is a valuable effort. So is there, maybe if we can list down a few things that we can do or collectively we can do? I think we are a lopsided community, more project managers and few others. So if we can still think of some things that we can do, maybe.
Yeah, so I think there are blueprints that we can follow. Even simple things like getting listed on an exchange starts driving the real exchange with real tokens. So, but with Stellar, you don't have to be, or with any other crypto, you don't have to be on exchange, but it does help. So there is a process for that. Are we there yet? Probably not. If we have enough, so as in there are, I can share in more detail, but there are certain parameters, as in the exchanges want a white paper, for example, so that they know what are you actually going to do with these tokens, and they wouldn't want to just list anything that they don't believe in. So there are things that we can do, but nevertheless, before even listing on the exchange, we can start exchanging it with the wider world. So if you've got SOS tokens, maybe what we do is run a session. Maybe on the next session, we show you how those coins can be sold. So people are, you've got a stash of some of these coins. Just sell them off and see what happens. We learn from it and maybe share your learnings back. And people may just buy it for a 0.01 of a penny or something, but at least we know how the market is responding. But that will, as in, we need to find ways of actually making it clear to the world as to what we are doing. As in, if there's a good purpose for these tokens, generally people, it's like buying shares. If you believe that that business is going to flourish, people will put money into it. It's no different when it comes to tokens. So we need to make our vision clear, our ideas successful, and things should fall in place.
Okay.
Long way to go.
Long way to go. There are lots of ifs and buts. So
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. As in today, what I wanted to share was really the vision. There is a lot of implementation, and what we've shared today will change. Link, you've got your hand up. You're on mute.
Just saying, I have to step out. I'm sorry.
That's all. I think we are overrunning, to be honest.
I'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Link. Any more before we start closing the call?
No.
Okay. Yeah, as in the discussion topic, I think is a long one. We will have lots of such conversations in the coming weeks and months. But I just wanted to share it today and initially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dinesh here, would it be okay for me to share my mobile number, which is on WhatsApp, if anyone wants to support me in these next 1 month?
Yeah.
I hope that's not getting recorded for public.
No, why don't you do one thing? Because this will end up somewhere in a public domain. So I would rather you ping the details, or I know your mobile number. I'll just send it across to everyone
Okay.
as part of that broadcast.
Do that. It's on WhatsApp and whatever best I can catch up. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Just one before we go, is everyone is this helping? Is this kind of starting to make sense? Because I've lived this for many years now, but is this coming to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the SOS, your SOS talk was very timely today, because 10 minutes earlier we'd been starting to think about people asking for help and probably wanting to reward people who are offering help. So yeah, if you'd asked me 4, 6, 8 weeks ago what the purpose of SOS was, I'd struggle to explain it. But now I've got more tangible a tangible explanation.
Yeah.
So Nick, you could explain your mom what SOS is about.
Yes. There are limits.
Yeah. One day.
Okay, sorry, Dash. I've got to go. Yeah. So we'll chat later. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sounds good. Yeah. Any feedback, guys, offline, on Slack, doesn't matter where. Please keep it coming. It really helps me a lot in shaping these ideas. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lovely evening.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you and bye.
Cheers.